Sorry. We are talking about social policy of the United States. And I will give a little refresher. The modern social state, the modern welfare state that we have now, we've had since the Great Depression around 1930s with Roosevelt's, not Teddy, but Franklin, his New Deal, which had the 3 R's: relief, recovery, reform. That could be a bonus question on the final. So you will need to look over the slides too, because I don't think that's in the book. And a lot of our modern programs that we have today, Social Security, food stamps, Head Start, they all kind of are rooted in that founding in the 30s with the New Deal. Let's talk about different kinds of programs. There are programs that you contribute to. You, the taxpayer, put some of your taxes into these programs. The most famous would be Social Security, or the most well-known, where a part of your paycheck, depending upon how many dependents you claim, will be put into this fund, and the government will start keeping track of your contributions so that when you reach, right now, I think the age is 65. I think by the time I get into my mid-60s, if I make it, it'll be around 67. Some people think that by the time you get into your 60s and 70s, there won't be any more Social Security. But if there is, most likely, you guys are probably going to have to work into your 70s. Sorry for the downer. But you work all your life, you put money into that, and when you retire, you can then draw Social Security payments. Let me encourage you guys to, most of you will find jobs where they will have retirement plans, 401ks, things like that. If you work at a place that doesn't offer that in their pay package, you'll want to make sure you get that, because I don't think you could survive just on Social Security. Anyway, that's a program you have to contribute to. Do you guys all have one of these? Have you guys ever seen your card? It looks like this.
Yeah.
Awesome.
My mom made me memorize my Social Security number.
And yeah, memorize it. That's good. There's been a lot of debate about trying to reform Social Security, especially with little George Bush in the early 2000s. But usually it's considered, keep your hands off it. But it's a contributory program. Our social programs, our social policy also offers programs in which you don't contribute. And these are programs that are available to people based on their need. In other words, not everybody is eligible for these programs. Things like food stamps or Medicaid. Let me show you the 6 major welfare programs. TANF, temporary assistance for those in need. Medicaid is I always get this mixed up with Medicare. It is a medical services sponsored by the government for low-income people. Food stamps, SSI, supplemental security income, people with disabilities, earned income tax credit, housing assistance. Because our government wants to make sure. Now, right now, these programs are to help achieve equality of opportunity. So people need food. People need nutrition to be able to work and do their best. People need housing. So these are things that these programs are designed to make sure everybody is on equal footing as far as opportunity. Some people want to go to equality of outcome, which means everybody gets the same amount of money. Everybody has the same amount of possessions. That's called socialism. And that is not what we believe as Americans. The government is not to try to bring about equality of outcomes. They are only supposed to protect equality of opportunity. But as people who pay taxes will sometimes feel, they are paying for other people's education or their food or their housing. And there is tension about our welfare programs. Medicaid is basically insurance for low-income people. SSI, people who are older, blind, or disabled. Let's talk about some of the terms that are in the textbook. In-kind benefits. In-kind. These are benefits that are not cash benefits. Like, for example, if you get on disability, you would get a check every month, a disability check. Put it into your bank account, you got cash, right? In-kind benefits are not cash benefits. So an example would be food stamps. Even though food stamps look like money and they got numbers on them, they can't be cashed in for money. You have to use them for food. And even, I don't know if there still is, I used to work at a supermarket in college. There were certain things that, in other words, there was a list of what you could get with food stamps. Some things were not eligible, like alcohol, cigarettes. You couldn't use food stamps for that. I don't know if that's still the same. What's up, Bertan? Food stamps are the largest in-kind benefit. And I don't even know if they still use coupons. They might have debit cards now. You're going to see the word entitlement in the chapter. A lot of these programs are called entitlement programs. And basically, these are programs in which the people who are eligible for them are entitled to certain help based on the regulations, the way that the laws are laid out. These categories for these programs are done in Congress and legislation, and they can only be changed by legislation. Or sometimes due process in court. But not all people are entitled to the entitlement programs. So, any questions on that? Contributory versus non-contributory programs, in-kind benefits, cash benefits, entitlement. I'm looking forward to reading your responses about the discussion question. Should welfare recipients have to be drug tested? Looking forward to seeing how that discussion's going. In the 1960s, with Lyndon Johnson's Great Society, there started to be reform. Johnson talked about his war on poverty, along with civil rights and voting rights being secured for everybody. It was a kind of a tough time for him to come along with this, because it was a time where, you know, the 60s, rebellion, revolution, questioned authority. But anyway, Johnson led his government to have a strong effort to end poverty. More social welfare programs were established. Here are some of those that were started. Now, a major emphasis, as I mentioned, was the war on poverty. 40 programs were intended to eliminate poverty. By improving the living conditions of people, this would then enable people to lift themselves out of the cycle of poverty. The programs were designed not to do it for the people, but to enable them to do it in their own strength, their own ability. So some of the acts and some of the legislation, the Housing and Urban Development Act, the Department of Housing and Urban Development Act, well, that'd be the same thing, I think. The Food Stamp Act of '64, urban mass transportation, subways, buses, things of that nature. This here is just kind of a little brief history of the presidents beginning in the 30s with FDR, their domestic agendas. That domestic means stateside here in the United States. FDR's New Deal, LBJ's Great Society. We could even look at Clinton and Obama, Obamacare. But even before Obama, when Bill Clinton was president, his wife Hillary talked about universal health care for all. So usually it's Democratic presidents that push these domestic social agendas strongly. Republicans, remember, they believe more in limited government, small government. Let the people use their abilities, find jobs and work. do it themselves with as little government interference or as little government assistance as possible. So a lot of the big social reform and social policies came about from the Democratic presidents, starting with FDR. A lot of this I'm just going to go through and let you look at yourself. Very quickly, another area of social policy is education. A big area or a big component of this area that we have talked about or had on in past chapters is it'll come to me, hold on. It's not coming to me. Maybe somebody can help me. Where affirmative action. Affirmative action. A part of that was to get more minorities in higher education. In theory, it's good. We want people to have equality of opportunity. But putting it into practice is always difficult because you're always going to have some people who feel like they're left out, something wasn't fair. And so we've also had different types of curriculums or standards in education. One of the things that Bush did, little Bush, was talked about no child left behind. This is an emphasis that was to guarantee that all American children would get a pretty much equal education, that is on the before higher education, before college. And so your standard testing and the plans of curriculum were so designed that you wouldn't have children lagging behind in school. But then a problem arose. What about your advanced students? Should they have to be kept held back with the others that are slower? So again, it's hard to get a perfect system. I wanted to show you how much Oklahoma spends on education, and then I'm going to stop and give you time to work on the bill. So of our complete state budget, and I forget what year this is, 2013. So it's probably changed maybe 3 or 4 percentage points since then. But about 1/3 of our state budget in Oklahoma is for education expenditures. Now, the nationwide average is just under 30%. We're almost to 33%. So we're a little above the nation. Look at California, one of the biggest states with a lot of kids, one of the lowest. Louisiana and Mississippi, pretty low. I'm surprised that Arkansas is a little higher than Texas. So, oh wow, look at Illinois, 22.9%, New York, 22.4%. So anyway, that was kind of a speed tour of the rest of chapter 17. Any questions? Make sure you look over the slides along with reading the chapter as you outline it. Wednesday, we'll talk about foreign affairs, foreign policy. Okay, so all you committees in Panama, go ahead and work together now and start harmonizing into one bill to present on Wednesday. I'll be here for any questions.
Oh, I do have a question. So
Okay.
do we have to rate the Last Christmas songs or whatever? The
No, you don't have to.
okay. Just wondering.
It's just for my amusement. I just like to do things like that.
Personally, I'm a Swiftie, so you got to go with T Swift all the way.
Is that an official or
That's my official vote. Hands
is that an unofficial title for Swift fans, a Swiftie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll play a Last Christmas song while we are waiting. And this is probably my second favorite, if not at least tied with the original one. This is Wigfield's edition. Wigfield is a female Swedish singer, and she had one of the most popular songs ever around 1994. But her Last Christmas rendition is really good, if you ask me.
By advertising on YouTube, I grow my business by reaching my most important customers, people like Allison.
Any questions?
No.
Because I mean, we're here for American government. Is Vianne still in the playoffs?
No.
I forgot who you guys played.
Bags.
Beggs, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, on to basketball, right?
Yeah.
How's Panama doing in basketball?
Our first game's Thursday.
Oh, okay.
We'll report back Friday. No, it's right after.
First game is after Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I know. Our first one got canceled because the team we're supposed to play was in playoffs in football.
Oh, okay.
Who are we playing first?
Did you ask your dad if he remembered that stuff I sent him?
Yeah, he thought it was cool that you were my professor. He's like, no way.
Cool. I was gonna say, my son will be home in a couple of weeks for Christmas break if you wanted to talk to him. He's got one semester left. He's trying to get into either Alabama, Texas A&M, Purdue, Florida, and I'm thinking Georgia Tech. He's trying to get in their PhD program. They have a program where if they accept you, they'll pay for your master's too. Well, they'll pay for the master's, you pay for the PhD. But you will also get to teach for them and help pay for your PhD. And he's trying to get a professor. You want to get a professor, if you go in the PhD program, you want to get a professor to sponsor you. So he's talked to several of them and he's got a couple interested. I told him if he goes to Alabama, he can't root for the Crimson Tide. But I can tell you my wife's probably rooting for Texas A&M because that'd be the closest.
Yeah, Texas A&M is like one of the top schools for it.
Yeah.
Place.
He was looking at Colorado at one time, but they did not have specifically what he wants to do. So he dropped them. And this next semester, he's going to be on a team. They have a competition called Speed Fest, where they build their own plane. Like not a little one, but not a real big one either. But they have to build a plane, and then they will race them against other colleges. I guess OSU started the Speed Fest. And so he's excited about that. We're going to go up and watch it.
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
Yeah. He wants to work with things about liquids in space. So he really is on the aerospace side. So I don't know exactly what that means, but so you guys have any questions on the committees? You understand what you're doing? Most likely the project, I mentioned maybe a bonus on the final. There won't be any bonus because the project, you will all get bonus points on the final for the project. So I'm hoping everybody contributed in some way, whatever committee you were on or group you're in. So I'm going to let you go now. And Wednesday, the final bill needs to be presented. So remember that. We'll finish chapter 18 and then kind of do the bill. And then when we come back on Friday, talk about the final. And then see what the executive's decision is on the bill. So have a great day.
You too, Mr. Banks.
Pretty good, Sid.